And looks like we're just about ready to go. Hello and welcome to One-on-One with Vin Dacquino. This is the show where we go out into the community to try to find people who've not necessarily had an impression, made an impression on people, but made an impact. People who have helped people change their lives in some way. My name is Vin Dacquino. Our guest today, Stuart. What a pleasure to have you here, buddy.
Thank you.
I need to know about some of the people who have impacted you. People who have not impressed you with their clothes or their money or their cars, but who have actually impacted your life. And I know you have some photos and some wonderful things to share with us. Can't wait to share them.
Yes.
Talk to me. Who are you?
Let me get my idea. Impacted my life. Well, everybody has influences and people that they. I think it starts back to I'm 5 years old. Okay. Watched Bozo the Clown on TV.
Okay.
My first friend. You know?
There you go.
Okay. And my mom finds out that Larry Harmon, who owns Bozo,
Larry Harmon
has a production office in New York City.
Wow.
Looks up the number, puts me on the phone with Larry Harmon at 5 years old.
And he's like the original Bozo, right?
He was the guy who bought the rights to Bozo the Clown.
Okay.
He wanted everybody to think he was the original Bozo,
but
he only
really
played Bozo a handful of times.
Sorry, Larry.
So here I am, 5 years old. My mom goes, "Here, it's Bozo." Puts Larry Harmon on the phone. He did Bozo. He did Professor Tweety Pooper. He did all the cartoon voices for me on the phone. From that point on, I was like, "Oh, so you can cross."
Put some show business in your blood.
You can cross that line. It's not just on TV. Now he's on the phone with me, so you can go there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he was one of your first influences, and
yes.
then later in your life, you have become a big part of show business, and right now you're pretty much involved with getting a lot of people able to do some of the things that they dreamed of doing.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about what you do. You're like a promoter, or what is?
Well, these days, I've worn many hats, in entertainment-related stuff. But these days, I've been bringing celebrities out to conventions, primarily a convention called Chiller Theater Expo. It's in Parsippany, New Jersey.
Wow.
And there, this happens twice a year, April and October. People can go there and meet some of their heroes that they grew up with,
Wow.
So in the past, I've brought out Barbara Feldon, who was Agent 99 on Get Smart.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
I brought John Astin, who was Gomez Addams on The Addams Family.
Yes.
Meadowlark Lemon, who was actually a dear friend of mine since I was 11 years old.
Now, is this like a fundraiser or a?
No, it started off over 25 years ago as a horror convention.
Oh.
Okay, and it was called Chiller Theater because Chiller Theater was a program on TV in New York in the 60s. Where had this hand chiller, and came up and they showed old horror films.
Wow.
And so this guy started a horror convention where he only had people from horror movies coming there that you could meet and take pictures with.
Yeah.
Over these 25 years, it's broadened out into, oh my gosh, I brought out the guy who played Bozo the Clown there.
Wow.
I brought out the guy who played Big Bird.
Wow.
So we're far from the horror theme. It's still a horror convention. I tell my celebrities,
sort of a celebrity convention.
It's a full celebrity convention.
Wow.
And when you see the people that are coming in, an example, the one that's coming up this April, I'm bringing Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh, man.
Okay.
I've heard a number of his songs.
I mean, who just put out a recent album. His album, he hadn't put an album out in like about 5 years, and it debuted at #1.
Wow.
I mean, you can't get better than this.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Weird Al Yankovic takes songs
parodies.
and he
parodies
takes
them.
and he parodies them.
Yeah.
And some of them are hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Weird Al is going to be there. In fact, he just announced a 78-city tour that's going to end at Radio City Music Hall. And here people will have a chance to meet him and take a picture and get an autograph.
I mean, his name is out there, but I don't know that his face has been out there as much.
Yeah, well, people know Weird Al from his videos. You know, he has a lot of,
that's true.
Yeah.
Now, that's right. With videos, you get to see the artist.
Sure. So I'm bringing him in. I'm bringing Max Baer Jr., the last cast member of the Beverly Hillbillies, Jethro.
Yeah, Jethro.
Yeah. And,
big guy, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Willie Ames.
Wow.
And Willie Ames was on Charles in Charge with Scott Baio.
Wow. So you brought some photos today.
Yes.
And you're going to share those photos with us.
Yeah.
I think we have some of those actually to show.
Sure.
So let's see one. Oh,
okay.
What do we have?
So this is, right after Bozo the Clown, my dad said, hey, check out Laurel and Hardy on TV. So I watched Laurel and Hardy, fell in love with Laurel and Hardy.
Oh, they're so funny.
Next thing, my mom is reading the local paper, and she goes, they have this organization. She says it's just for like adult men, and they meet once a month, and they have a banquet, and it's called Sons of the Desert, and it meets in New York City. She goes, it says in the local paper that one of the main guys who runs this lives in Yonkers, where we were living. And I said, oh my God, really, really, I want to meet him. And she goes, not only did I find out he lives in Yonkers, he lived in my building.
Oh my God.
Not only did he live in my building, he lived down the same floor. He was on the other side of the same floor, on the third floor. So I got dressed up as Stan Laurel.
Oh no.
You know, I had my little Stan Laurel impression down.
Yeah.
You know, and I knocked on his door and I said, "You gotta take me to the meetings. I gotta meet." You know, and he takes me there. He said to my mom, he says, we don't have kids usually. He says, but we do these banquets. Took me to the banquet, and there was Mrs. Stan Laurel, who had just been.
My goodness.
He just passed away 2 years before this banquet.
Wow.
Stan. But I got to meet his wife, and I dressed up as Stan Laurel, and I did my little impersonation, and even the little walk that Stan did.
Oh, that's funny.
And you could see in that picture, she just fell in love with me. At 7 years old, she gave me a kiss. Now, that's what that picture is.
So you really got this bug in you at a very early age.
Well, it's funny. In more recent years, I just kind of said to myself, so people don't generally meet their heroes.
Yeah.
Like, I've been lucky to have met a lot of these great influential people that in my life.
I try to encourage people to do that, because there's so many people out there who spend their entire lives trying to have an impact on other people. And they're models.
They are.
And I'm pleased to hear that you have models out there. And not only do you have models out there, but you made an effort to go see them. And that's amazing.
And these types of conventions, like the one I mentioned, Chiller, allows people now to have access to these people.
So they're not just names, and they're not someone out there in TV land.
I sit on the other side of the table and I watch these people walk up to the celebrity, and they just can't. They have their moment now. You know, it's not like running in and, he's in a restaurant, I might bother him or whatever. They're there now, and you can talk to them, and you can tell them your story and what they meant to you.
Yeah, I think I mentioned to you that one of my very close friends was Roy Campanella, the Dodger catcher.
Yes.
And I would go with him.
Yeah.
And one time we were going down 7th Avenue.
Yeah.
And I'm wheeling the wheelchair down 7th Avenue, and a bus driver sees us.
Yeah.
Stops the bus. Now, this was in like 1970s.
Okay.
Roy played 48 to 58. Sees Roy, stops the bus, and instead of the people on the bus complaining, they gave him a standing ovation.
Really? How cool.
And Roy turned, and he was so gracious, and he turned and he nodded his head, and they applauded.
See?
And it was just,
it's
people
like
need to know that they're real.
It's like a magic feeling.
Too.
I brought Ray Parker Jr., who did the Ghostbusters song. I brought him to one of these conventions, and he'd never been to one, and all of a sudden he's just sitting there, and he's like, so people are just lining up in a row to tell me how much they love me.
Wow.
What a beautiful feeling, and that's how I explain it to
and
these other
people
guys.
need that too.
Yeah.
So, and these are very, very important figures, and unfortunately, there are some huge stars who've taken some bad paths. And sometimes we get nervous about being up there in the light and knowing that there's people out there who depend on us. And some of these people are worth depending on. They're good, wonderful people. I think
Yes.
you have another photograph.
Sure.
Of something else.
Oh,
that you'll show.
gosh.
Oh my goodness.
So I at 7 years old, I did TV commercials. I did Tootsie Roll commercials. and this is when I was on the Joe Franklin show. Joe held up my old headshot of when I was 7 years old. And
wow.
that's Joe holding the composite.
He
up.
was quite a character too, wasn't he, Joe Franklin?
Joe was great. Joe, I brought the picture to Joe, and Joe was like, "I went through my archives and look, I found this. Tell us what this is." It's like, okay.
Yeah. and so you've had your moments in the spotlight too.
I've had some interesting fun. Yeah. I mean, I recorded records, and I was able to produce.
Oh wow!
In the 70s, when everybody was into disco, I wasn't into disco, and I just didn't like that boom, 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 the beat, and so me and my friend gently did a little record called Disco Toilet. Okay, and we sent it out, and I got this book called The Songwriter's Marketplace, and we sent it out to different places. Long story that I won't go into, but we got a call back from Phil Spector's office, who was interested in it. But kept putting me off, because he was working with the Ramones at the time. Subsequently, Dr. Demento, the great novelty DJ.
I remember the Dr. Demento
Yes,
show.
Dr. Demento.
Yep.
And he was nice enough to not only play this song, but then when I would run into him, he'd go, that's one of my favorite songs. And I said to myself, maybe it is, maybe he's heard thousands of records, but he did this Basement Tapes collection on CD. And sure enough, I'm on volume 1. He put Disco Toilet on volume 1. It was very cool.
Wild.
Yeah, so I've had that kind of a moment, and then yeah.
So I feel awful. I thought I would be the first one to have you on a talk show, and Franklin beat me out, man.
Hey. I was promoting. I had a record that I did at the time called Happy Valentine's Day. That I did because the only Valentine's Day song I could think of at the time, this was 1981, was My Funny Valentine. So I said, let me do one called Happy Valentine's, as clear as it can be. And so that's
wow.
I did that, and I was on the Joe Franklin show promoting that record.
Wow, that was cool.
Yeah.
So, another photo.
Okay.
What do we have?
Well, when I was in junior high school, got on the school paper, and the teacher says, you cover this football game, and you cover that teacher, and he turns to me and he goes, what do you want to do? He gave me an open thing.
Wow.
I said, well, I get through to celebrities. I said, can I have a column where I interview celebrities?
Whoa.
And he says,
He
sure.
said, no, absolutely not.
No,
right?
no. He says, go ahead and do it. So I called up the old actors' home in Woodland Hills, and I said,
I mean, there really is an old actors' home.
yeah, in Woodland Hills, California.
Wow.
And I said, can I talk to Mo Howard? They said, well, Mo Howard's not here. They said, but Larry Fine is here. I said, let me talk to Larry Fine.
So remind our audience.
Yeah,
Larry
the Three
Fine.
Stooges.
Three Stooges.
Yes. So what you're looking at here is a year after I interviewed them on the phone. That's me at the top at 14 years old with Mo Howard from the Three Stooges.
Wow.
The bottom corner is Larry Fine, who had a stroke. He was in a wheelchair, as sweet as can be, with his Stooges pictures on the walls behind him. And the other picture is Curly Joe Dorita.
Wow.
And that was a year after I interviewed them on the phone. It went in the school paper, and then I just went out and knocked on their doors one day. I went to my uncle in California.
And they were receptive.
And they were sweet. They were they were such beautiful people. It was.
Yeah. And they were.
They were little.
I grew up. Oh man.
They were like
right?
5'1", maybe.
Oh really?
I'm on my way to Mo's house, and I'm like, and I'm gonna get a picture of him going, and he opens a little old man opens the door like this, and I'm like, I can't ask for a picture like that.
Yeah, wow. So they were little people.
They were little. Now, once I realized how little Mo and Larry was, and I said, oh my God, now can you picture Curly? Like Curly, the way he whoop, 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 like, being a little guy, like that must have been hysterical.
Yeah, really. Wow, I do remember. I probably watched every episode of the Three Stooges.
Just
so
classic.
it must have been amazing for you to be standing there talking with them. And what were they like? Were they gracious?
They were wonderful. Mo was probably the most private. But, so I'll tell you a funny story. So I call up Larry, and he was the first one I called. So I said, could I have Mo's number? So he says, yeah, his number is blah, blah, blah. So I call up Mo, Well, at the end of the call, Mo goes, so how'd you get my number?
Oh.
And I'm not thinking. I go, well, Larry gave it to me. And Mo sounded like just like what he was like. Oh, we did he? He said, oh, we did he? I was like, and I'm thinking, come here, porcupine, give me that.
Bonk.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's what I was thinking when I heard him say
You
that.
get the poke in the eyes and back on the head. That's funny.
So, yeah. But in fact, in April, they've asked me to come out to the Three Stooges convention in Philadelphia and do a half-hour talk.
Wow. So now we have another.
Okay.
There you are.
This is.
Speaking of curly, look at all those curls.
Oh, God. This was a perm that went wrong. Yeah. I was 17 years old. I wanted to look like Roger Daltrey and Tommy, and I ended up looking like Harpo Marx. So that's, and it was growing out there. I looked poodleish. But anyhow, that's me out in California. I called up. He was in the phone book. That's Alan Reed, the original Fred Flintstone. And that's 4 months before he passed away. I had no idea that he was sick at the time. He was so gracious and so wonderful. And I asked him, I thought I was going to be a smart ass, and bypass the Flintstones questions. Yeah. Oh, I'll ask him about radio days. I have this beautiful interview with him, but he's not talking about Flintstones, so I've never published it.
Really?
I have him talking
hurry up.
I have him talking about being daddy on Baby Snooks with Fanny Bryce, and on Life with Luigi, he played Pasquale.
Really?
And yeah, he did all this radio stuff before he was Fred Flintstone, and it's kind of cool. But I can't think of a publication that if anybody knows where I can do this.
Okay, you heard that. This is a plea. If you know a place,
I have a great interview.
Might
with
be
him.
interested in this wonderful story, then by all means,
I've got the tape.
I believe your website or at least something is
my email.
Your email's on there. Email Stuart. Yeah. Make sure that you tell him, give him some ideas of where he can share this wonderful information.
It'd be nice
wonderful
to share
stories.
It.
Absolutely.
That's all that I'm about.
Absolutely.
It's
what I say about history.
Yeah.
If we don't remember those people who have passed, they truly will be dead.
Yeah,
so let's keep them alive.
It's a shame that there is so many years of radio broadcasts.
Oh yeah,
that are
Bob
nowhere.
Hope, and I have whole wonderful radio shows.
And you listen to these radio shows, and there's comedy bits
Yeah.
that were written for these shows that are hysterical. There's
They are
music
hysterical.
bits, there's performances, and they're gone.
Yep,
They're
Gracie Allen.
For the most part,
Oh, my
people
God.
don't even know they exist. You know,
Yeah,
it's a shame.
wonderful
Yeah,
routines and skits that are
wonderful
just
stuff.
wonderful. All right, what is this?
This one day my mom was down in Manhattan Court dissolving her business. My dad was outside the court building, and he sees John and Yoko. John Lennon and
my
Yoko Ono
goodness.
come out of a cab. And my dad gets his autograph. John comes over to the car window. He goes, I got to get your autograph for my son. He goes, what's his name? And it was so cool.
Wow.
My dad goes to the phone and calls me at home. I'm 15 years old. Wow. And I got on a bus and a subway, and I went down there to the court.
Oh, my God.
And I
he
said
he
to...
was still there?
Yeah. And I went up to John, and I said, could I get an interview with you for my school paper? And at this point, it was 75. He was just retiring because he just had Sean, and he took time off from the public.
Right.
So he's shaking his head no. Well, I brought a John Lennon model with me, an original model made by Ravel. Wow. And I said to him as a last thing, I said, well, I brought this for you because I know you collect this. He lit up like a kid on Christmas.
Wow.
And he says to me, well, I had enough of this. He says, but I'm starting to type, so can you leave me questions and send me a questionnaire? I said, okay, great. I sent it to him, and he wrote it in by hand. And that's what you see there.
Oh, my God, this is from John Lennon?
That's on the last page. That's one-word associations. I put George, he said lost. I put Elvis, he said fat. I put Paul, he said extraordinary.
He said fat for Elvis?
He did.
Uh-oh.
He said thin
Elvis,
for...
hope you're not listening.
He said thin for Bowie, okay?
Oh, thin for Bowie,
yeah. And of course he said...
May he rest in peace also.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what an immense talent. They worked on Fame together, the song Fame. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was, 15 years old. That was with John Lennon. And
that's amazing.
I started writing for
magazines.
photos of him?
Didn't bring a camera.
I had one photo that I took, and it came out so awful that I need to get it fixed. You know,
this is gold. Now, didn't you? Wasn't there a drawing or something?
He drew me a picture as well. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have an original John Lennon sketch.
I do. I put a blank page over the questionnaire so the questions wouldn't smudge, and he took that and he drew me a lamb on a cloud, and he's thinking, and it says "Hi, Stuart" at the top.
Oh my
and
God!
It's signed John Lennon at the bottom. Yeah.
Oh my God! That you
what
realize
a cool
what
guy.
you have there?
What a sweet man. It's just
So these meetings that you've had with these famous people were really just kind of like chance meetings that your mother or you set up, or your father.
No, my mom. Aside from the Bozo the Clown thing, my mom never set up anything else. I took it all from there.
Wow.
This is at when I was a little kid, I loved Tiny Tim, and my dad would call me to the TV and go, "He's on the Tonight Show," and they let me stay up.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's me at 10 years old meeting Tiny Tim for the first time.
Wow.
And all the years later, I wrote and produced a record for Tiny Tim.
Oh my goodness.
Called "I Saw Mr. Presley Tiptoeing Through the Tulips." And it was about the Elvis sightings. And I introduced Tiny to Howard Stern through that record.
Oh my goodness.
And they had a great relationship through that. And Dr. Demento, of course, played it.
Yeah.
And just recently, there was a book that came out, a biography of Tiny Tim, and there's a chapter on me.
Wow.
In there, knowing, being a fan as a kid and then growing up to write and produce this record.
I remember.
I was so thrilled.
I was working as, I believe, a waiter, and I worked late.
Yeah.
And I had to rush home because tonight was the night that Tiny Tim was going to marry Miss Vicky.
Yes.
So it was amazing. I watched it. You couldn't
Everybody
pull me
watched
away
it.
from that. Everybody watched it. You're absolutely right.
They said more people watched Tiny Tim on his wedding in '69 than watched the first man walk on the moon.
Wow.
How do you like that?
That is amazing. I was born and raised in Utica, New York.
Yes.
In Utica, there is an old movie theater that was turned into an arts studio.
Oh, okay.
And this movie theater featured Tiny Tim.
Did it?
So I went, and there he was with his little ukulele, singing Tiptoe Through the Tulips, and he was really wonderful.
Yeah.
And I thought he was going to be this corny kind of, but it was really a very entertaining night, and I was so happy to have gone.
Tiny knew every song from the turn of the
Oh,
century.
he did.
He had it all in his
through
head.
one after another after another. It was really.
And if you were
really
hanging with
pretty amazing.
Tiny and you just mentioned a song, out came the ukulele from
he
the
was
shopping
ready.
bag, and he played you the song.
Yeah. He was quite the character.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, another picture. Oh, look who we have here.
Gilbert Godfried.
Yeah. He's voice.
Yes.
Tell me, what is this now? You're a little older here. You're not 15 or 16 here.
Well, that's these days when I bring out these celebrities to these events. I brought Gilbert out.
Wow.
And I brought him out a couple times to Chiller, and people line up for him. And he's found a very interesting niche. He found the audience through Howard Stern, which is the adult kind of audience, and he loves to do that. But he's also the voice of the parrot in Aladdin in Disney. So he represents both of those areas.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a characteristic voice. Such a
wonderful.
characteristic
You should have heard him
person.
at Abe Vigoda's wedding. Not wedding, funeral. Abe Vigoda's funeral. I asked Gilbert to come to Abe Vigoda's funeral.
Is that right?
And the daughter said, will he talk? And I said, you want Gilbert to talk at Abe's funeral? And he got up and he killed. He
did?
The
Oh
room
my
was, it
God.
was the nicest thing.
Those
the family,
entertainers, put on a light. There's an old joke about that. If you want to know who the entertainers are, put your headlights on high beam, and they'll start dancing. The guy dancing is the entertainer.
Abe's daughter Carol called the right shot, and it was beautiful. Gilbert got up and was 200% Gilbert Godfried on that stage.
Wow.
We buried Abe 20 times before this, and it was beautiful.
Now, do we have any more photos? How are we doing? Got them all?
Okay.
Wonderful.
All right.
So, Stuart, we're running down.
Yes.
Talk to me. These moments are moments that some people live a lifetime for. And it's so important for us to appreciate every day we're in.
Absolutely.
All these people have touched your life
Yes.
in some way.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why you're here today. I wanted people to understand that these little moments are big moments.
Yeah.
They're treasures that we carry.
Absolutely.
They're things that we bring along with us when times get tough.
Yeah.
And there's times when memories just hurt and life hurts. So when we have the opportunity to have a great moment, we need to take it.
Sure.
And
Seize
some
the
of
moment.
Seize the
Really.
moment. And for you to seek out some of these people
Yeah.
and feel good
Yeah.
is a message to people saying that when those people are up on top, not only do you feel good to meet them, some of them feel good to meet you.
Oh, of course.
And they're giving you your due, you're giving them their due.
Yeah.
So when you see someone standing out there on a pedestal,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that will throw rocks to knock that person off a pedestal. And there's other people who will appreciate what it takes to get up there.
Sure.
To appreciate what someone has done is very important, whether the person is a famous movie star or just anybody else. So reach out, give people credit for the things they've done in their lives, recognize greatness, and you'll find the greatness in you.
Thank you.
Stuart, a pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure
I can't
being your guest.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
enough for coming here today and helping us to realize that when you're out there doing something, somebody's watching.
Yeah.
And many times it matters. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for understanding that your important moments can be important for other people too. Nobody stands alone. Thank you for being here. Pleasure. Stuart, thank you for sharing your memories. Treasures.